Welcome to another live session. Let me pull up my notes here. Today we're talking about 3 myths about the K to R01 transition. And these are myths and beliefs that I hear a lot from women who are considering joining my K to R transition program. And I want to talk about how these myths, how these beliefs about what the transition actually is can really hurt you. So let me first introduce myself. I'm Sarah Dobson. I am a research grant consultant and an academic career coach. And one of the things I do, like I said, is work with women faculty who are making the leap from their career development award to R01 level funding. And there's a lot of stuff a lot of feelings that can come up in this transition, a lot of beliefs around what it actually takes. And so I wanted to talk about 3 really important myths that need to be debunked. So let us talk about each of those. The first one is that I don't have any R01 caliber ideas, right? And we've talked about this in a previous video. I will link to it so that you can go back and watch the full video. But I want to talk about it again because it's really, really important, okay? And actually, I'll just pause here. There's a lot of construction going on outside right now, so I hope the sound is actually okay on this video. Not a lot I can do about it, but I know that it can be pretty loud. Okay, so when someone comes to me and says, I don't know if I have any R01 caliber ideas, I know immediately that they're thinking really small, right? They're thinking like a mentee. More importantly, they're disconnected from the bigger picture of their research, right? And that's totally normal. It's normal because you are a mentee. But moving from your career development award to R01 level funding isn't just about writing a different type of grant. It's about stepping into a new stage of your career, which means there's a lot more to it than just learning the skills and the techniques around how to write a strong R01 application, right? But more importantly than that, stepping into that new stage of your career doesn't happen after you've submitted your R01 or even after you've gotten funded at the R01 level, okay? It happens before. And it must happen before, okay? It must happen before you even start writing your R01. Because one of the things that needs to happen as you step into a new stage of your career is that you really need to embrace your role as a leader and an independent researcher, right? That's one of the core components and one of the key purposes of your K award. But again, it doesn't mean that you need to wait until the K award period is over before you get to claim that. You need to claim it now, right? And as you claim your identity as a leader and an independent researcher, you need to make sure that you understand the trajectory that you're on. What are the big scientific or clinical or population level challenges that you care about solving? And where do you want to make your impact with your research? And so once you claim your identity and claim your impact, you'll have no shortage of R01 caliber ideas that will last you for the rest of your career. So that's the first myth, is that I don't have any R01 caliber ideas. Let's talk about the second myth, which is the K award is about me and the R01 is about the science, right? And this one is a little bit tricky because in some ways it's very true, right? I'm sure you've heard this at some point as you have been thinking about making this leap, right? The K award is about me, the R01 is about the science. But so that is true in some ways. They're completely different styles of grants with completely different objectives. And your career development award does focus heavily on your potential to become a successful independent researcher. That is the purpose of your K award, right? But I think what's underneath this belief is, okay, fine, maybe people saw my potential and that's why I got the K award based on that. But if you're just looking at the science part, there's no way I can compete. I'm not ready for that, right? Does that sound familiar? Okay, so here's why we need to debunk this myth. You would not have been funded at the K award level if you could not deliver on your potential, okay? They don't just hand these, they don't just hand these out. The K awards are also very competitive. And in my opinion, as someone who does this day in and day out, they are more challenging to write than an R01 because you really have to thread the needle across so many different components. But that is a video for another time. The point here is that your belief that you don't have what it takes to succeed at the R01 level is in itself holding you back, okay? Your belief that you're not ready is holding you back. If you want to move to the next stage of your career and get funded at the R level, you need to believe that you have something valuable to contribute. And we talked about that a little bit in myth number 1, right? You need to believe that you have the expertise and the experience to lead a massive, big budget, multi-year project. Because I promise you that if you don't believe it, it's going to be very difficult to convince your reviewers, right? And I know it sounds a little bit strange, but it actually does come through in your writing. If you don't have that confidence and belief in yourself, it comes through in how you approach writing your grant and how you actually convey that on paper. So it may take a few kicks at the can, right, to actually get funded at the R01 level, but you need to believe that you have what it takes. Because here's the danger, right? The danger is that you submit an R01 and maybe the first one doesn't even get discussed. If you're going in there with the belief that you don't have what it takes and you'll never be competitive at the R01 level, a triaged application is just going to confirm that belief, right? You're just going to think, oh yeah, well, of course that's true. Of course it got triaged. And so you might decide to scrap the project or decide that maybe you're not cut out for this career after all. In whatever the scenario is, you just make it really hard on yourself, right? But if you go into it thinking that your research really matters and you have the expertise and the experience to deliver on this project, a triaged R01 won't deter you. You'll use that feedback to write a better grant next time, and you'll keep going because one disappointing result doesn't mean anything. You've got your eyes on the prize, right? And just so you know, this has been true in the work that I have done. We've worked with several first-time R01 applicants who were funded on their first submission. So it is possible, it does happen. That doesn't mean that it's the norm, but bottom line is that you really need to believe that you are capable of this, right? Because if you don't deeply believe that, it's going to be really hard to convey that to the people who are making decisions about your application. Okay, belief number 3. Actually, I'm just going to check quickly in the chat to see if there are any questions or comments. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so I will go back to belief number 3. So if I don't submit my first R01 by a certain deadline, I will be behind. So this is a really insidious one. And I hear this one a lot from women faculty who are considering joining my K to R transition program. I hear this because they have a very specific plan for the timing of their R01 submission, right? They tell me that they plan to submit for a particular cycle and they can't push it back because it's going to put them behind. And so my answer to them is always, well, behind on what, right? So yes, getting R01 funding is best viewed as a process, right? It can be very helpful to have that ESI bump. And that's usually what the behind part is about, right? It's, you know, I want to be able to get this in within this certain period so that I can take advantage of the ESI bump. And if I need to resubmit it, then I'll still be eligible. You know, there's all of this sort of thinking and strategizing that goes into when to submit your first R01 application. And all of that, I mean, I'm a strategist at heart. I completely understand that. I think it's really smart to do that planning ahead. But the reason that you want to take advantage of the ESI bump in particular is because you think it might improve your chances of getting funded, right? That's what that feeling of behind is all about. You know, I need to make sure that I fall within this time frame so that I can get this advantage, right? And it's true, it might help you get funded. But I'm here to tell you that the ESI bump is not the only way to improve your chances of getting funded. Okay? There are plenty of other ways to improve your chances. For example, giving yourself enough time to conceptualize a really exciting, really compelling research project, doing that deep thinking that is required to put something together that is really rock solid, right? And then, of course, actually writing a really clear and persuasive grant proposal. Those are also ways to give yourself an advantage when it comes to getting funded. So notice here the thinking around getting started early and taking advantage of the ESI bump. It's based on fear, right? It's the fear of, I better get started early because there's no way I'll get this on the first try. And even worse, I better take advantage of the ESI bump because otherwise it'll be way harder for me to get funded, right? If you're dead set on a specific submission deadline, because otherwise you might miss the ESI bump or you might end up falling off the K-cliff, I just want you to notice whether your motivation is coming from fear or whether it's coming from excitement. So you really want to get started, you have a plan, you have boundaries in place, you feel really confident that you can do what's required, right? There's a big difference between, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get this funded, so I need every advantage possible, versus I know what I'm going after, my eyes are on the prize, I'm prepared, I've done what I need to do. Those are very different scenarios, right? So just do a gut check around where you are with that, okay? So let's recap. The three myths, the three beliefs that we challenged today are, I don't have any R01 caliber ideas. The K award is about me, and the R1 is about the science, and therefore I'm less likely to be successful, right? And the third one is, if I don't submit my R01 by a specific deadline, I'm going to be behind. So today, I just want you to think about how those beliefs are influencing you as you prepare to make that leap from your K award to R01 funding. All right. So once again, I'm going to check and see if there are any comments or questions in the chat, and it looks like there are not. So I will come back and say, if you found this video helpful and you are looking for some support as you make that leap from your K award to your first R01, I run a K to R transition program for women faculty to help you make that leap successfully. And if you're interested in learning more about the program, I invite you to book a call with me. And you can do that by going to the link that's in the video description and booking a call. So I look forward to meeting you and hearing more about your specific situation, and I will see you next time.